So we're starting chapter 6, and this is going to be about anatomy and physiology. So what is the difference between anatomy and physiology? Well, anatomy is the study of the structure of the body, and physiology is the study of the function. So that's really important that you understand the distinction between the two. Anatomy is structure, physiology is function. The chemical composition of the human body has 6 predominant elements that make up 99% of the body's chemicals: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. And then there's some other trace elements that make up the other 1%. I know that you reviewed cells when you were in living environment, but we are going to review cells again. A lot of what we cover in anatomy and physiology this year is just reinforcing stuff you've already learned, introducing some new concepts, in the event that some of you will be taking medical interventions as your next class in this journey. So first of all, we should review the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell. Obviously, we're going to focus on animal cells. You can see animal cells are more round, plant cells are more square, because plant cells have a cell wall, unlike animal cells, which only have a cell membrane. So here is my cell membrane. That's the outermost layer. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance that holds the organelles in place. All of these things that you see inside the cell, I see endoplasmic reticulum, I see mitochondria, those are all organelles. And then this is the nucleus, obviously, of your cell, and then the chromosomes you can't see reside inside the nucleus. So DNA is found in every cell of the human body, and it's located in chromosomes in the nucleus of a cell. And then sections of DNA are called genes. So you can see here on the bottom that I highlighted genes are part of chromosomes, chromosomes are part of DNA, and DNA is found in the nucleus. Back in 2003, the DNA sequence of a human was mapped. This is the Genome Project. There's a question that most people or students are confused by, and that is that all cells in the body begin as undifferentiated stem cells. This is a fact. Stem cells mature into differentiated cells, so they will become specific depending on the organ or tissue of where they will reside. So they evolve to function in a particular organ system. And adult stem cells can be found throughout the human body. Tissues are groups of cells that work together to accomplish a task. Types of tissues might include connective tissue, which is between maybe joints and or different parts of the body. Epithelial tissue, which is your skin tissue. Muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. You can protect your epithelial tissue from damage with sunblock. Organs are 2 or more groups of tissues working together. Each organ performs 1 or more specific functions. So your digestive system, your kidneys, your lungs. Vital organs are those that the human body requires for survival. Non-vital organs are organs that a person can live without, like an appendix or a gallbladder. So to review, tissues make up organs, and organs make up organ systems. Body functions are controlled by groups of organs known as body system. One example of a body system is your urinary system that removes waste and controls the body's fluid balance. If one organ is not functioning properly, the entire system or the body will be affected, and the body will do whatever it can to regain homeostasis. Maybe you know somebody that had a transplant or is waiting to have an organ transplant, like a kidney transplant. In order for that to happen, we have to do something called tissue typing. Tissue typing examines the antigens found on the surface of the cells located in the human tissue. We have to make sure that the donor's antigens match the recipient's antigens in order for the transplant to be successful. Otherwise, the recipient will view the transplant as a pathogen and it will attack it. I think you all know what homeostasis is. You've heard me mention it several times. It is the state of internal balance achieved by adjusting the body systems. We do this all the time by controlling temperature. When we're cold, we shiver. When we're hot, we sweat. Also, blood pressure is a way of maintaining homeostasis. Many diseases disturb the homeostasis and increase the risk of illness. Maintaining homeostasis by maintaining a normal blood pressure can be done one of two ways. Some people can control their blood pressure just through diet and exercise, while others need medication to do so. The integumentary system covers and protects the body. So this would include your skin, any sebaceous glands, sweat glands, fingernails, and hair. Sebaceous glands, just so you know, produce oil, and it usually moves up the hair follicles to the surface of the skin, where it lubricates the skin and the hair. Sometimes if it gets blocked, that's when you would get a pimple. Many diseases are associated with the integumentary system. The musculoskeletal system consists of bones, joints, and muscles. The skeleton is composed of bones, cartilage, and joints. And in the skeletal system, you have two divisions, axial and perpendicular. So when you think about the body in general, the human skeleton has 206 bones. So there are 80 bones in the axial skeleton, and that forms the vertical axis of the body. So that would include the head, the vertebral column, the ribs, the breastbone, and the sternum. And then the appendicular system consists of 126 bones, and that includes all free appendages and their attachments to the axial skeleton. So these would include your upper and lower extremities or limbs and their attachments. Types of muscle tissue include skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. So what are the differences between these? Well, cardiac and skeletal muscle are both striated, for one, and smooth muscle is not. Obviously, its name, smooth muscle. But cardiac and smooth muscle are involuntary. So they work with involuntary responses, and skeletal muscle is voluntary. So cardiac and smooth muscle are not under conscious control, where when we move our body, skeletal muscles are under conscious control. Some injuries that are related to muscles can include strain, a contusion, which is just basically like a bruise, cramps, soreness, tendinitis, and shin splints. And I know some of you are athletes and have suffered or are currently suffering from some of these. How is exercise related to muscle, bone, and joint health? Well, the exercise helps slow bone loss, and it prevents muscle, bone, and or joint problems. So staying physically active works to your benefit. The nervous system directs body functions through electrical impulses generated by neurons. There are two parts of the nervous system. There is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system includes your brain and spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system includes all the nerves that branch out from the brain and spinal cord and extend to all the other parts of your body, including any muscles or organs. So basically, if you can just remember, central is brain and spinal cord, peripheral is everything else. It's the dendrites that stimulate the neuron by collecting and responding to stimuli. So how nerve cells communicate is that the dendrites, which you see here at the top of the picture, are very branched out, and they receive signals from other neurons, which are then transmitted through the axon to other nerve cells. So it's kind of like a really fast game of telephone. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. You have meninges that cover and protect the brain and spinal cord. The meninges is actually made up of 3 different membranes. I know you've probably heard of them. It's called the dura mater, the arachnoid, and the pia mater. And I'm not going to test you on those, but you should know that there's 3 membranes, and they line the skull and the vertebral canal that encloses the brain and the spinal cord, and it protects it. Certain structures of the brain contribute to the function of the central nervous system. You have the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brain stem. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, and it's in the front, so it's like your forebrain. It houses the nerve center that controls all your sensory and motor activities and your intelligence. The cerebellum is usually referred to as the little brain. It's the second largest region of the brain, and it's located behind and below the cerebrum at the back of the brain stem. And it's attached to what's called the midbrain, which you can't see in this picture here. Its main job is to help coordinate movement activities, walking, posture, reflexes, any kind of eye and head movement. It also helps coordinate subconscious movements such as balance. It receives information all the time, non-stop, about your body's position and movement. It also sends out instructions to your muscles to adjust your posture or your body so that you keep moving smoothly. Your brainstem sits just above your spinal cord, and it has a lot of things connected to them. It's made up of 3 different parts: the medulla, the pons, the cerebellum, the midbrain, the hypothalamus, and the thalamus. So that's a lot of things that are part of the brainstem. So the central nervous system controls the activity of the brain and spinal cord. And what is the function of the peripheral nervous system? Well, I told you, its job is to control everything else, any information to all other parts of the body. So you have 12 pairs of cranial nerves that enable the senses of smell, sight, hearing, taste, as well as facial sensations. And your cranial nerves also control eye movements, balance, communication. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that carry signals throughout the body. So that's a lot. So the PNS has a lot of job responsibilities. So we're going to conclude today's lesson with the sensory system, and then we'll save the other systems for another day. So the sensory system is the part of the nervous system that consists of sensory receptors, such as your eyes and your ears. It also includes senses of taste, touch, and smell. The receptors transmit information to the brain where it's processed. So you touching a hot stove, or you touching the prickly point on a cactus, sends a stimuli to the brain, a message. The message sends the brain back, listen, remove your hand. The eyes enable vision. One of the things that we have to be careful of as we get older are cataracts and glaucoma, which are disorders of the eye. Perhaps you know someone that's had to deal with one of these diseases. So a cataract is a change in the lens of the eye, and that results in cloudiness of the eye, so the light can't get into the eye. Whereas glaucoma is a buildup of pressure in the eye, which causes damage to the optic nerve. Its effect is that the brain is unable to process visual information. Your ears have two important functions: hearing and maintaining the body's equilibrium or sense of balance. There are three main parts of the ear: the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. And we do a whole project on the ear in medical interventions, which is pretty cool. So for now, I'll just say that the job of the middle ear is to transmit sound between the outer ear and the inner ear. And there's three bones that you'll learn about in the middle ear that I'm not going to talk about right now. The inner ear also has two smaller organs. So you've got some semicircular canals, which helps balance, and you also have the cochlea, which serves as the body's microphone, and it converts sound pressure impulses from the outer ear into electrical impulses, which are passed to the brain, and then information is sent back. We also have taste, smell, and touch. You have taste receptors on your tongue, and you can actually burn your taste receptors, but they do come back if you eat something extremely hot. The sense of smell is made possible by olfactory receptors that are located in the upper part of the nasal cavity. And then you have touch receptors, which are rounded bodies called tactile corpuscles that are found in the skin. So which of the five senses do you think is the most critical for a person to function normally? Taste, sight, hearing, smelling, or touch? If you had to give up one of your senses, which would you choose and why? I want you to think about that, and I'm going to start with this slide at our next class after our presentations.